And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. Sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sterlingsoap.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Yesterday's Sports on the Sports History Network. Today I'm joined once again by my friend and fellow sports historian Dave DiPaolo. And we're going to have part 2 of our look back at some Monday Night Football history.
Eagles, they got a very good rating, and I think it's the highest one ever on a cable thing, and I think it's 18. It's like 10 points below that to give you some kind of a yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. Big difference.
And what else happened in that 85 season? One other gruesome thing.
Oh,
remember?
Was Joe Theismann. That was gruesome. Oh boy. And they kept re-showing it. They kept re-showing. I had to turn away. I couldn't.
I don't think they would do that today.
No, they wouldn't. No, they would not do that today.
And I don't think we saw anything like that up to that point, right? On television like that?
Never. No. I couldn't believe they kept re-showing it. And it was like they gave a viewer warning. They kept saying, if you're squeamish, then turn your head. You don't want to see this. And
no, listen. It was not good. I remember the leg. It almost looked like somebody snapped it in two.
Yeah, and you could hear it. That's why as soon as Taylor heard it, Taylor heard the snap, and he immediately called to the sidelines for them to get out there.
That's correct. Yeah, that was nasty. That was the end of Joe's career, right? I don't think he ever played again after that.
No, he said he tried. He tried to, they had him in training camp the next season, and they had to be honest with him. They said, Joe, you can't. You're done.
Well, after that 85 season, Mark, the announcers started to change. They had 3 major big-time players into it. Fran Tarkington got in there involved, O.J. Simpson, and Joe Namath.
Yeah, I didn't think any of them were a good fit. And
no,
none of them were there for very long either.
Yeah. Give me your take on those guys. What did you think of the first one? Was Tarkington?
Yeah, Tarkington, I think, was only at first he did they started him off with just doing a few games. Once in a while, he would fill in for Meredith, and he didn't last that long. Yeah, I don't think he just didn't have that skill to be an announcer. Namath was only there for 1 year. Only there for 1 year.
Namath was, listen, he's the only guy that can turn the word play into a 2-syllable word. The guy's like, he was on that play. And I was like, this guy's brutal. He would listen. There were some guys that were brutal over there. And I liked Joe Namath, but he was just not, you know what I mean? He just didn't,
I never understood. I never could understand. He He was from Pennsylvania. He spent 4 years in Alabama playing for Alabama in college. I don't know how in that 4 years he picked up that Southern accent, and just from being there for 4 years, he could never get rid of that Southern accent.
Yeah, it was almost a mix. Like it was a Southern accent and something else though, even. You know?
Yeah, it was a strange accent.
Well, I did enjoy him on Super Bowl V, the pregame, when he analyzed the Cowboys and the Colts. Right?
He had it pegged. He said if the Colts, the Colts can stop the Cowboys' running game, they're gonna win, and that's exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah, he was good with that though. I liked it, and I still like listening to Joe Namath, even to this day. But I'm doing a football game. Yeah, I think doing an entire football game is a little too much. Yeah. And then I think in '86 Al Michaels came, correct? I think. Yes. 1986.
He took over the play-by-play.
Yes, he did.
And then I guess Gifford became a color commentator.
He did, and they added one more guy, Mark.
In '86.
The '87 they added, I think, and it was the longest lasting. Yes.
Is that Deerdorf?
Yeah, you can't get nothing by Mark. It was Deerdorf.
I thought he was good. I thought he was a pretty good announcer.
Yeah, I thought he was very good. I really did.
Yeah.
And it was the longest lasting trio that the run has ever had, still to this day. 87 to 97, I believe. So 10, 11 years around that.
Wow.
Yep. They lasted that long.
Yeah, they were a good trio. Not as good as the original three, but I would say they were probably the second best.
Yeah. I like Dan Deerdorf his analysis. Remember we were doing a podcast with the boxing. Remember I said he did a boxing match?
That's right, yeah.
I forgot what fight it was, but we were talking about it.
Yeah. I think one of the George Foreman fights, maybe.
I think you're right. By 1998, okay, they were at their lowest. They were at some very low ratings. They were doing 13.9 for ratings. They weren't even hitting. They weren't even hitting 15. And I think in 1999, the following year, they tried to revamp They tried to do some other stuff. Like they brought in. They moved the Hall of Fame game onto ABC, and they had the yellow line for the first down. They in a computer generated that line. They tried to experiment with some things that weren't really. I think they brought Boomer Esiason in, but he only lasted, I think, a year or two because he didn't get along with Al Michaels. They did not get along.
Okay.
No, and I could knowing they're kind of. Al Michaels seems like a pretty, when you listen to him, I'm going to be honest with you, I like Al Michaels a lot. And you wouldn't think, but they say he has a very, very big ego.
Really?
Oh. Yeah. And I know Boomer Esiason is kind of that way. Just by talking to guys that work down at the Fan, he's kind of that way. So you see, you got two guys maybe that there could be a lot more to it than that. We don't even know. It's just speculating, but that could have been part of it. And they just really started experimenting with some really bizarre stuff. They brought in Dan Fouts and Dennis Miller, 2000, 2002, right around there, the year 2000.
Yeah, that's when I started to lose interest.
Yes, I could see why, too.
Yeah.
Dan Fouts and Dennis Miller lasted 2 years. And they were saying that yeah.
Surprised they lasted that long.
They said that nobody really understood his humor.
He had a strange sense of humor. was hard to understand what he was even talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they
talking about.
Exactly. And you're saying to yourself, what in the hell? You know, what in the hell is he this guy? He thinks like you're going to get all the jokes, but like if you weren't in tune with the guy, you know, you didn't know what he was talking about. And why is he at a football game anyway, a comedian?
Well, like you said, the ratings had plummeted, and I guess they were just trying anything and everything.
Yeah. And in that same time, they had a woman on the sideline, Leslie Visser. Remember her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they let her go to bring in a couple of other people. One was, I think, they brought in another woman. She ended up suing them. I didn't know this. She sued ABC for age discrimination because the lady was much younger than her.
Oh.
And I don't know whatever became of that. I could probably, I could look that up. But the other thing is they brought back the producer, Don Ohlmeyer. Remember that name?
Yep.
And he tried to do he was the producer for the first 7 years. So from 70 to 76, I believe, he was there. And so what they started doing is they started adding some other things. They changed the graphics on the screen. Right. They added player introductions where the players would introduce themselves. They would say their name, what college they're from.
Yeah.
These were all things they were trying to do to boost ratings. Right. There was a couple, yeah. Yeah. But, sometimes you just can't get something back. You know what I'm saying? You can't get something back. Like once you have something, and as one guy put it, he said they were living in the shadow of their own history. That's like right. they couldn't escape it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what they did. They were trying to bring it back to those early years, the ones we talked about earlier, and they just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Even the music was better.
Yeah, they changed the music, and they brought in what's his name. They did the thing with Hank Williams Jr., and that ended up getting crazy. They talked about that here. But the big thing, they were talking about games, and they said in 2000 was a very famous game called the Monday Night Miracle, where the Jets came from behind. You remember that game?
Vaguely. It was a high-scoring game, right? Was it?
They were losing. Game? It ended up being that, but they were losing 30-7 against Miami, and I don't know how they came back in the second half, but they did, and that was like a very popular game for them. They called it the Monday Night Miracle, and that was 2000. I think that's the game where Jumbo Elliott. Oh no, that was the Jets. Something happened in that game where something happened at the end, and then they got rid of Miller and Fouts. Thank God, and I like Dan Fouts. He was good, and they got Madden in 2002. Right. John Madden came.
Yeah, and
that was a big thing.
Him and Al Michaels worked good together,
and that's all you needed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, Madden talked enough for three people.
Right? No, he was. Listen to me. He was good though. I mean, he was.
Yeah. He was entertaining.
Yeah, and look, I just turned on. My buddies were over on Sunday, and I just turned on some. I pulled some stuff up that I recorded on my big dish. Remember when I talked about the big satellite dish would get those live feeds? And I was showing my brother-in-law some clips from the Cowboy 49er championship game in '92 when they went out to Candlestick.
Yeah.
That 30-20 game when they beat the 49ers. And Madden comes on before the game, and this is all being shot on. It's all coming over live. It was a live feed, so nobody saw this. But if you had a big dish back then and you turned that feed on, you could get it. And you could see how excited before the game he was so excited that the weather was clear. And he said, "Oh, look at this! Look at weather's guy. See the sun's coming up." And you could just hear that he was talking about that they replaced. Yeah, they replaced the sod, and look at the field. They replaced. Then they ran out of time. They ran out of money, and so they didn't get to the whole field. And he loved football.
Yeah,
that's why. Yeah, that's why I think he was so popular. He came through on the screen that he just loved it.
Yeah, I remember when he first started announcing. All those years he was with Pat Summerall, but the first season, and once it got to be a little later in the season, the weather started getting cold. He opened all the windows in the booth. And Pat Summerall said, "What are you doing? I'm freezing." And Madden said, "Oh, you gotta get the feel of the game. You gotta feel the cold."
I could see that, Yeah. And he had to have things just right. And, that same video I was just telling you about, he's telling the guy to take the stuff off the monitors. You can't see in the stadium. I don't want to have to be looking. And, these are all things that you don't normally see, but you're seeing just how it was and just how he wanted it set up. You know what I mean? And, that's why he was so good. I thought they were great, him and Michaels. They were really good.
Yeah, they were good. Yep.
And they tried to get a little gimmicky. They had this thing called the horse trailer, and it looked like it was a big trailer where all the equipment was in, and they had in big graphics, they had all the games for the whole season up. Each week you could see the games, who was playing, and then they would have a weekly MVP, and they would put a picture of the guy's head up there, and they would interview him after the game, and so they were trying to do all these things to try kind of make it to keep interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the 2003 season was the Brett Favre game where the father passed away. I don't know if you remember that game. They killed the Raiders 41-7, and Favre threw 4 touchdowns in one half, and I think he threw for about 399 yards total, but he had 4 touchdowns in the first half to put the game out of reach early, and that was the week that his father unexpectedly passed away. So that was that was like their most famous game of the year there in 2003, was that Brett Favre game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing. And then in 2004, the ratings continued to fall, even with Madden. And so they parted ways. Listen, 2005 was going to be the last year for Monday Night Football on ABC. Imagine that.
Wow.
That was 20 years ago. It's hard to believe, Mark.
It went fast. Then went, who took it over? ESPN?
They did. ESPN took it over. ESPN they could collect money, they were saying, from subscription fees and cable and satellite networks providers. So they were getting a lot of money, and they could sell the commercials for a lot of money. So, that was their big selling point to the NFL. We should get the games. We should, and they did get the games. And the last game, I guess, was December 26, 2005, the Jets and the Patriots. And the most ironic thing of all is it was 31-21. Final score was the same as the first game ever.
Same as the first game. How about that?
I didn't know. Did you? I didn't know that, Mark.
No. And you mentioned the commercials. I can't imagine how much money they're getting from these commercials. Because if you look at some of these early games, not just on Monday Night Football, but any game, if you look at any of these games from the early 1970s, you can get them on YouTube. A lot of times you get the complete game. And sometimes they'll show the commercial. They'd show 1 or 2 commercials, and it was back to the game. The commercials lasted about a minute and a half tops, and then it was right back to the game. Now, 5 minutes, you're falling asleep by the time the game comes back on.
And you know what there's so many of you. You know what the odd thing is, Mark? We talk about this every week. Me and my buddies have been talking about this for about 10 years now. So this past week, there were 7 early games, okay? Yeah. And I could go between, the 7 games. I could go boop, boop, you could change. And when commercial on one game, there's a commercial on the other station, 6 of them. They're all almost the commercials. They're all falling.
Yeah.
Like almost, it's unbelievable how you go from game to game and it's all in a commercial every game.
You can't escape. Yep. You can't escape the commercials. You can't escape the commercials. You could take a nap.
And if you go to a game, live, Mark, if you go to the stadium.
Oh yeah. Same thing. Yeah. You're waiting.
You don't even really know what's going on, but everybody's just standing around.
Yep, you wait forever for the game to get back in.
No, not the same, but that first year on ESPN, they had Al Michaels and Joe Theismann. I forgot about that. Do you remember Theismann or no?
Theismann, I remember in the beginning, he wasn't bad. I thought he was pretty good. The only thing is maybe he kind of talked too much, He talked, him and, guy that was even, I like Theismann. He just talked a little too much. But the guy I didn't like as an announcer. Not that I liked him as a player, but Phil Simms, he just talked. He would never take, he just wouldn't shut up. He wouldn't take a breath. He just kept talking and talking and talking. You got to let the game speak for itself,
No, I know what you're saying. There's an art to that where, guys with like a big home run call or whatever, they would let the game speak for itself. Right. I know what you're saying. I like Phil Simms. I like him a lot better than his kid, I can tell you that. But I know what you mean by that. He was on NBC. I think he was on one of those, two of those games were on NBC when the Cowboys had that run in the 90s. I think the first one and the third one, the Steelers and the first Bills game. Right. After the first year on ESPN, they just went into a litany of announcers that I couldn't even believe the names. I was reading these names. They brought guys in from their shows, so they had shows on ESPN, these football shows, these sports talk shows. And Tony Kornheiser and Mike Tirico had a show that was very popular. They brought those 2 guys on.
Right.
And I like Tony Kornheiser, but you got to have a thing for him. Like if you don't really like his style, you're not going to like it. And they didn't last very long. And then it just became a game of musical chairs. They had Mike Ditka. They had Steve Young. They had this guy Mike Greenberg, another guy that had a show on ESPN. They had Rex Ryan. They had Trent Dilfer. They had Chris Berman. They had Mike Golick. All these guys, Brian Greasy, Steve Levy, who I met, by the way, down at the Fan when I went to go see Summers one night. Steve Levy opened the door for me. Anyway, and this guy, Louis Riddick, who they're still on games now. Louis Riddick he's got a show, I know that. But all these guys were filtered through.
Yeah.
And before you know it, really the next big notable game that they talked about really was 2006 when the Saints went back into the Superdome. That was a big night for Monday Night Football.
Right.
The Saints went back in. They killed the Falcons. I think it was like 23-3 or something like that. And then they had the Cowboys-Giants game. Drew a large television rating for them. 16 million viewers, which was big up until that time. That set a record for cable television. 16 million viewers.
It's a lot.
And also that same year in 2006 was that famous. The game wasn't so famous, but the reaction afterwards from the coach, the Cardinals. Dennis Green. Remember, we thought they were the Bears. We thought they were.
Yeah.
That was a game. That was a Phoenix Cardinals Chicago Bears game, which ended 24-23. The Cardinals had the game in the bag. They were up 23-3. And they outlost. I remember watching that game up at the ice cream shop. And then he came on afterwards, that famous clip of him banging the podium saying the Bears, well, he let him off the hook. That's a famous clip. That was that game. I can't believe it was that far back. That was 2006.
Wow.
It was almost 20 years ago, Mark.
Yeah. Goes fast.
You know what I mean? And then in 2007, they tried to change things up again. They tried to get away from the game being like a societal event, like bringing in all these. And they took the reporters. They started spending less time with reporters on the sidelines. That was a big thing. To get a guy and interview a celebrity on the sidelines.
Oh,
they did away with that. They said, we're going to try to bring it back to what it was, like a tele. But they did get a big game that year. The Cowboys set another record with 18.6 million views, a 13 rating, and that was a Philadelphia Cowboy Dallas game. So that was in 2008. So Romo was there at the time. Romo against McNabb.
Right.
That was that era there, And then on election eve in 2008, they had both presidential candidates on. They had McCain was on and Obama. And at that time, John Gruden was in the booth. I forgot about him. Remember Ed Gruden?
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah. Did they have Paul McGuire?
I think,
Paul
yes.
McGuire too?
I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of liked Gruden. I liked his style.
Paul McGuire used to call him Chucky. He said he looked like there was some...
The doll. The cartoon. I think it was a movie or something.
It was, something to do with a doll. And he said that Gruden looked like the doll, Chucky.
Yep. But he was pretty good, Mark. He was pretty, and he knew a lot of football. He wasn't just some guy that was like passing through. I mean, he knew football. He could explain it. I mean, he was good. He was technical. And then that's when they had all my rowdy friends are coming. And they did away with Hank Williams because he made a comment. I guess and this is in 2011 now. They did a golf tournament. He was part of a golf tournament. And he was talking about, he actually, Obama was involved and there were some others. And he said that, he made a comment about something. They didn't like it. And he said, you're stepping on my First Amendment rights. And he said, we're going to take the song off the air. And he said, I'll take it off for you. And it turned into a big, big thing and just like a big, pile of stuff that really got nothing at all to do with football. Just all this other, roundabout stuff.
That's the problem. That's the problem today. Stick to the game.
Yeah. They listen. They went through another round of announcers at that point in time after 2012, 2015. They got all these guys, Sean McDonough, Jason Witten. For God's sakes, he was terrible. Jason Witten, as a great player as he was, then they got Joe Tessitore. He was another guy from ESPN. This other guy, Booger McFarland, who was he was like a third guy, but he was on the sidelines. It was the two guys in the booth didn't know like when he was going to talk, and it became almost like a distraction. It was very, very, a lot. It was very bad at that point in time. They ended up changing over to Steve Levy. It wasn't bad, actually. I like Steve Levy. Brian Greasy, and then they had Louis Riddick, and then finally in 2021 they went to Aikman and Buck, which is what's theirs. They're still there now. Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, and so they're in their fifth year, which takes us up to today, and and it's just like the guy said, Mark. I go back to that. I said it before. They couldn't escape their own success that they had in the early years. And the guy said it. They were imprisoned by their own history. Yeah. This was just a guy who was commenting on what do they call it, guys? They do reviews of all these things, and they said they just can't get away from it.
Right.
They couldn't get away from it.
That's right.
That's kind of how Monday night. it came about, and then it kind of devolved. I mean, it kind of, I watched the game last night. It was a pretty decent game. It was 0-0 at halftime. The game, almost unheard of in today's. I think the game ended up 13-10. It was a game you would have liked, Mark. Believe it or not.
Right.
But
good defense.
The style of football is not the same. Even, you know what I mean? Like the stuff that's going on during the game with the rules and the stuff that they could do, and you got the guys playing. It's the take on things. I'll say this: if you don't go back and watch the old games, go back and watch old games, you almost get, I'm not hypnotized, but you almost get put into like a rhythm or a trance that like this is football today. And if you don't go back and watch them, you can almost forget what football was like.
Oh, completely different.
Right. What we're watching today, or what I watch at least, is nothing like what we were watching. Even the entire running game, like when they run a sweep, it doesn't look anything like it did, years ago. And the plays are set up differently. The Cowboys, not because we're Cowboy fans, but the Cowboys ran a beautiful screenplay. Probably the best screenplay the game has ever seen, I always thought. And sometimes they had a double screen where they would fake it one way and go back the other way. Yeah. And the screenplay, they don't even look like screenplays today, where the linemen would count and they'd make their way out there. They'd let the rushing linemen come in and they'd get the ball out there. That was a big, big, big play for the Cowboys over the years. You know that. I don't got to tell you that.
Yep.
You don't see plays like that anymore. Yes, I do, Mark.
Yep. They ran that a lot. The shuffle pass.
The shuffle pass. After they put Staubach in the shotgun, which they originally, as Landry used to call it, the spread.
Right.
the spread formation, right?
Yeah.
You saw that in the 75 championship game? That's where it appeared, I think.
Yep.
And you see the plays today, and they're pushing the guy for a first down. They call it the tush push, where they get behind the quarterback and they get these linemen and they put them in the backfield, and they're pushing the quarterback. Like, wait, this is like rugby.
Yeah,
rugby. And now what's happening is we're back on.
Well, there it goes again. There goes my computer again. Switching the settings.
Still working though.
Okay, so we're back. We had a little technical difficulty. I just wanted to go through some of my notes and see if you have any comments, Dave. Let's see. We have there was a game, 1971. The Vikings and the Baltimore Colts, and this was a very good defensive battle because both of those teams had really good defenses at that time. Very low scoring game. The Vikings won it 10-3, and I wanted to mention that before the game, it was right the day before. So before the game started, they had a moment of silence. Do you remember what that moment of silence was for, Dave? There was some.
And what year was this, Mark?
1971. There's something that happened the day before, during one of the NFL games. It was a.
I can't even imagine. When you say it, I'll probably remember, but no, off the top of my head, I cannot.
That was Chuck Hughes.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
He played for the Lions, I think.
That's
no?
Right. It was a game between the Lions and Bears. And Chuck Hughes, who was a backup wide receiver for the Lions, and I think this is still the only time this ever happened, that he died, had a massive heart attack during the game. He was lined up, he was in his stance, and he just dropped right there on the field.
Terrible.
Yeah, and they took him out on a stretcher, and they announced about 5 minutes later, they announced that he died.
Imagine that.
So they had a moment of silence for him on that Monday night game. Then there was, let's see, there was a game. Oh, here was one of the funny. You were talking about Don Meredith. He was always good for a laugh, Don Meredith. You know, he would sing at the end of the game when it became when it became obvious the game was over. He'd sing that song, "Turn out the lights, the party's over." So there was this game in 1972. In the early years, they had quite a few mismatch. I don't know what the thinking was, but I guess the idea was to try to get every NFL team some exposure, put them on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Some of these games were just really total mismatches. 1972, they had the Raiders playing the Houston Oilers. The Oilers were just terrible at that, like the worst team in the league. I think they finished the season with 1 win and 13 losses. So it's the Raiders won the game 34-0.
Wow.
And towards the end of the game, and this game was at the Houston Astrodome. Towards the end of the game, the cameras zoom in on the fan, and like, you know, half the stands are in. Everybody's leaving. The game wasn't over yet, but obviously it was over. You know, the Oilers weren't coming back from 34-0. So most of the fans were filing out of the stadium, and they zeroed in on this one fan sitting there all by himself, and he looked like he was asleep. And he noticed that the camera was on him, and he stuck up his middle finger.
Listen, yeah, I remember it now.
Right.
Go ahead.
And Don Meredith always knew what to say. He said, "He's saying we're number one in the nation."
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he said we're number one in the nation.
Yeah, I remember that now. I didn't realize it was that game.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my buddy Ray he was a huge Raider fan. He'd remember that game.
There was another game in 1972. Raiders and Jets. The Raiders won 24-16. And that game, Don Maynard for the Jets set the all-time record for receptions. He surpassed Raymond Berry, set the all-time record for receptions.
Imagine that. Maynard, you know, when you think of Don Maynard, Mark, like you don't really remember him like as that prolific of a, you know, he was with somebody else, or did he play with two other teams?
The Giant.
Okay.
He started with the Giants.
Yes. A lot of people don't even talk about that. A lot of people don't talk about that.
That's right.
That he started with the Giants. I forgot about it. In fact,
he was actually in the 1958 championship game between the Giants and the Colts. But I think he was only a rookie, and he was, you know, I don't know if he even got in the game. Maybe he returned. He was a return man or something. But he turned out to be a great player. There's another game here. You might remember this game. 1973. Dolphins and Steelers. And the Dolphins were winning 30-3 at halftime. Their safety, Dick Anderson, had 4 interceptions in that game.
Yeah. I remember that vaguely, yes.
Bradshaw was injured. This was before the Steelers won any Super Bowls. They were just getting to that level of a, you know.
Yeah, but Miami was coming off of that. Miami was a powerhouse.
That's right. Miami was a powerhouse. And they won. They were winning at halftime 30-3. The Bradshaw was injured, so he didn't start. They had that guy, Joe Gilliam. Jefferson Joe.
I remember 17, I think he was.
Number 17. And he did not have a good game. He threw, I think he threw 4 interceptions. So then Chuck Noll said, all right, Bradshaw, get in there. Even though he was injured. They had to take Gilliam out. They put Bradshaw in. And Bradshaw's first pass was intercepted.
Really?
Yeah, his first pass of the game, intercepted. So they were destroying the Steelers, 30-3. And the Steelers made a tremendous comeback in the second half. The final wound up being...
Under Brad?
What's that?
Under Bradshaw, or was Gilliam in there in the second half?
Bradshaw. Well, the other guy was injured too.
Okay, because he couldn't...
Hanratty was injured too.
Yeah, from Notre Dame.
Yeah, he was injured. He couldn't play. But the Steelers made a tremendous comeback in the second half. The final wound up being 30-26.
Wow.
Yeah, they made a great comeback. Almost.
Yeah, the Steelers were starting to build something there, Mark.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. Right?
Do you remember the first Saturday night game? Monday Night Football.
Was it that Cowboys and...
Yes.
Was that the Cowboys and the Raiders?
Yes, it was. It was.
Cowboys got beat that night, I know that.
They lost by 4 points. Yep. Up until 1974. Oh, you froze there again for a minute.
Blanda played that game, Mark.
Yes, he did. And he was in his 40s. I think he was about 46 years old. Maybe even older.
Imagine that.
Yep. And up until 1974, Monday Night Football only had 13 games. They didn't have, in week 14, they didn't do a Monday Night Football game. So what they did in 1974, the final game of the season, week 14, they put it on a Saturday night. So that was...
There you go.
Yep, that was the first game on Saturday night.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I didn't know it was the first one.
Yep, that was their first Saturday night game.
Huh.
Oh, here's some...
Didn't know that, Mark.
Yeah. Here's something really wild. 1975, I think you'll remember this. The Giants were playing Buffalo at Rich Stadium. And a fan, they have that wire for the... they have a wire going across the field to hold up the nets. They had nets so that when they kicked extra points and field goals, the ball wouldn't go into...
Yes.
They didn't want... they didn't want to lose football. Frank Gifford said it wasn't to save money. It was because they didn't want these altercations like they have in baseball now, where the fans are going after and punching each other just to get a football.
Yes.
But
imagine that.
But this guy, a fan, decided he was going to be an acrobat. And he climbed across this wire at the top of the stadium.
Slid down the net?
No, he didn't go on the net. He was using the wire, I guess like a steel wire they used to hold up the nets. And he decided to do a stuntman act, like a high wire act. He was upside down, climbing across this... And they showed it, and Howard Cosell was beside himself. He said, "I can't believe this. What is this guy doing? This guy's And it was really a pretty tense situation because if the guy would have fell, he probably would have not only killed himself, but he would have landed on some of the other people. You know, it could have been a really big tragedy. But
Look, if that wasn't a Monday night game, he probably would have never done it.
No.
Think about it, right?
That's like you were talking about. That people knew they were on television.
That's how big it was. It was big, yes.
Now, what was that?
That's unbelievable.
Hold on a minute,
What year was that, Mark? Rich Stadium was probably fairly new back then. Just think, they're just getting a new stadium now, Mark. Well, that stadium's ancient. They're still playing there. Right across the street, they built a new stadium. You know what the funny part is? The top of it is open, like the old Cowboy Stadium, but the fans are covered. And when you see these new stadiums, they're right near the old stadium sometimes, and then they knock the old. And the old stadium looks small usually. Rich Stadium looks bigger than the new stadium. That's how big it was. They just showed it. The new stadium the other day. I said, oh, look at that. You know, in fact, I didn't go through Orchard Park, but we drove up to Niagara Falls, my brother and I wanted to go through, because we went right through Buffalo. And if I had more time, I would have went down to see that new stadium. I would like to seen it.
Yeah, everybody's got a new stadium now.
That's what it is, Mark. How much money you can make, all this stuff.
That's it. Yep. There was a game in 1977.
What happened?
No, I got the wrong year. What? Got the wrong year there. There was a game in 1978. It was the Steelers and the 49ers. And there was a lot of talk about whether they were going to postpone the game. A lot of people wanted that game postponed.
Because of the weather?
No, it was at Candlestick Park. And earlier that day, the San Francisco mayor was assassinated. And a lot of people thought, you know, this was only like hours before the game. The San Francisco mayor was assassinated. And a lot of people felt like it was inappropriate to play the game.
Harvey Milk. I think that was the guy's name.
That's right. Right. That's right. And there was another guy, too, a city supervisor. I think a city supervisor was also assassinated.
That's right.
But they played the game. In spite of some people's protests, they played the game.
They made a movie about that, by the way. I think Sean Penn played Harvey Milk, I think.
I'll have to check that out.
That was a big event. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then 1980 was the, I think it was week 14. I don't remember the exact date. It was early December when they interrupted the game. It was the Dolphins and the Patriots.
I'll never forget it.
Yep, that's the night they announced John Lennon was shot.
That might be the one thing I remember, or maybe more than any other. I was actually sitting on the couch with my Uncle Jerry to the right of me. He had a rocking chair. And my father was in his regular chair. And they did a special on this. I I'll send it to you if you've never seen it. It's very, very good. They interview the doctor and everything. And there was some sportscaster or some writer, I think. He was involved with sports. He happened to be at the emergency room that night for something. And they saw, he said, is that John Lennon they just wheeled in? And he got on the phone. And that's how the spread over to ABC. Then they coaxed Cosell into saying, you got to make an announcement. And he didn't know if it was appropriate or not. And then Gifford said, oh, no, you got to do it. And all that's recorded. You can hear it all. I'll send that to you. It's great. Yeah.
Well, then, the only other game I have here that was very memorable to me for a specific reason. It was a 1984 game.
I know what you're going to say.
This was a game between the Broncos and the Packers.
Oh, no, but go ahead.
Which game did you think of?
I thought you were going to talk about one of those Redskin games where they were singing Happy Birthday to Joe Theismann.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot. What that was 83, wasn't it, or something?
Might have been a little bit later, maybe 85.
Okay, it was one of those years, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. But this game, 1984, October 15th, the Broncos beat the Packers 17-14, and there was a blizzard.
Oh.
And this is only like 3 weeks into the autumn season.
Yeah.
There was a blizzard at Mile High Stadium.
Yeah.
Quite a big snowstorm.
I remember it, Mark. That was a big deal.
And you know why I really remember this game is because it was the first time I ever watched a game on VCR tape.
Really?
Yes. 1984. I checked to see what the prices were. I checked on the computer. I did a little research. What it cost to buy a VCR in 1984. They said a cheap one, like not even a really good one, a cheap one was $400.
I remember it very well.
Anywhere between $400 and $750 to buy a VCR.
Listen, my friend Tom was a big cowboy fan. He moved to Hawaii. I've talked to you about him a little. He became friends. He was a customer of mine. He said he taped the catch, and then he took the tape out and smashed it. Listen, so how much was the VCR in 1982?
Oh, man.
January of 82. He had just bought it for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then he smashed the tape.
Oh, man. Yeah, they said to get a really good one was like $1,000. So anyway, this was nice.
You remember all those games, Mark, that you're bringing up now?
I remember this game, yeah, because like I said, it was the first time I watched a game on tape. I couldn't afford to buy a VCR. At that time, I was only 22 years old.
No, exactly.
I wasn't going to spend $400 to buy a VCR.
No, it's crazy.
So I didn't. This was at this time in 1984. I was working a job where I was on the third shift, and the shift started 9:30 p.m. 9:30 p.m. Well, just like you with the ice cream place, right? A lot of times you didn't get to see the Monday night game because you had to work.
Yeah, I listened.
So the shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shift started at 9:30 p.m. So I couldn't watch. I couldn't watch Monday Night Football at that time for a while.
No, I
But one of my coworkers asked me if I want to. He said, "Do you want to?" He said, "Once our shift is over." He happened to be a Packers fan. This guy.
He wanted you to go over and watch the game.
This guy was a real character too. He was a strange guy, kind of a weird guy, but I got to be friendly with him.
Yeah, no.
He was a nice guy.
No, I got you.
But he was a little weird. He was a little off the wall. You ever hear these Argyle socks?
Of course.
Yeah. He was always wearing his Argyle socks. And he would always show me. He said I just got a new pair of Argyle socks. And he was very proud. He would show me his socks all the time. I said, I don't need to see your socks.
And he taped that Packer game.
He taped the Packer game. I just want to point out. I can't help but point out how weird this guy was. Another thing is, in the middle of the night, it'd be like around 1 o'clock. We would stop to have our lunch break. 1 o'clock a.m. We found a place that was open really late. And sometimes we would order pizza from them. Sometimes we would order sandwiches and soup. And if it was a really cold night, we'd get soup. And he would go crazy if you put crackers in your soup. He thought that was, he'd say the crackers are drinking up all your soup.
Yeah, I still do it.
Yeah. But this drove the guy crazy. He couldn't stay. He'd go ballistic if you put crackers in your soup. So then I started doing it deliberately, just to drive him crazy. And another thing that drove him crazy, he had a lot of weird quirks. This guy. There was a vending machine that had drinks, soda. You could get a soda can. And I was never a big soda drinker, but I found out that he would go ballistic if you got an orange, either orange or grape soda. He didn't like that. He'd go ballistic.
That's a bizarre quirk right there.
Yes, he had really some bizarre quirk.
Why would that bother anybody?
Yeah, but it bothered him. He didn't like that. So I said, Jim, the guy's name was Jim. I said, Jim, you see this soup here? I'm going to put about 3 packages of crackers in it. And I'm going to go to that vending machine and I'm going to get a grape soda. And he left the room. He couldn't stand it.
I was going to say, you'll find the guy out on the ledge.
Yeah. He left the room. He couldn't stand it. He had to walk out.
Yeah, you wonder what becomes of people. Like whatever became of that guy.
Yeah. So anyway, he had a VCR.
Mention that?
Yeah. He said, do you want to, after our shift's over, do you want to come watch the game with me? The Monday night football game. And he was a Packers fan. I didn't even know what he was talking. I said, what are you talking about? How are we going to watch the game?
Imagine that.
The game will be over. He said, I have a VCR. I'm recording. He said, I'm recording the game. And so we had to spend, we spent the whole night trying to avoid hearing anything about the game. Sometimes someone would start talking about, they might be listening to it on the radio.
Yes.
And we'd have to cover our ears.
Yeah, he didn't want to. You don't want to ruin it, you know.
That's right. So by time we got to his house, it was probably about 6 a.m. And I couldn't believe it. I was watching Tuesday morning football.
No, it's unbelievable.
6 a.m.
No, you'll never forget that.
No. And we turned on the game, and we both thought we were seeing things because they were having a blizzard.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That makes it even
that
more.
Was my first experience.
Yeah, that makes it more bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll never forget that game because that was the first time I ever watched a game that was recorded. At 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, I'm sitting down to watch Monday Night Football.
We got one, Mark, about that time. My father bought it. It was a top loader. You put the tape in and then pressed it down.
Right.
Because we had 5 kids, and my mother, when they were into kind of like, not technology a lot, but my mother used to like gadgets and stuff like that, but it was pretty good. You were able to record shows, and I started recording a lot of those cowboy games that were on at the time on TV. I saved a lot of those tapes too.
Yeah. The best thing was you could fast forward through the commercials, right?
You could. And you could set it to 3 speeds. The fastest speed used up the most tape, but it was the clearest picture.
That's right. I remember that.
And it was pretty good. I mean, for what it was.
Yeah, at that time.
And then I bought a camera. In the mid 80s, I bought a shoulder big, and it was a super VHS, which was better quality even. And I used to do a couple of weddings, and I started filming stuff. That's where I started getting into filming things and stuff. And you didn't see a lot of people with cameras back then.
That's right.
And I still have 2 of them upstairs, big. They're like this.
Yeah. And if you talk to anyone, anybody from the younger generation, you mentioned VCRs or cassette players, they don't even know what you're talking about.
No, not really. Or how about an 8-track player? Forget that.
8-track, yeah. The 8-track player you put in your car, right?
You had car, and they also had home ones. You could just set them up and put them in your house. You put the 8-track in there. Remember those things?
That's right. That's right.
No, it's primitive. It's you're crazy. You're behind the times.
Yeah.
I still have a bunch of 8-tracks downstairs. I don't have anything.
That will conclude our podcast on Monday Night Football memories. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope everyone has a happy new year. Thank you for listening, and God bless.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, Or who knows, maybe even write an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.